Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, this meeting will be conducted in person and via remote means. In accordance with applicable law, every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately assess the proceedings to the best of our technical abilities, and despite our best efforts due to lack of technical infrastructure, a transcript or other comprehensive recording of the proceedings will be available as soon as possible after the meeting. So, officially calling the meeting to order. So, yes, the agenda for tonight was to run through and I think prioritize the listing of capital for Article 6. I don't know, Mary, did you have a chance to look at that schedule I had sent over?
Yeah.
Okay, and so one
Alex, I have a question. Is there any wisdom in taking up the articles that are kind of funded through, like, I'm thinking of the harbor master with the waterways improvement, like designated fund request?
Yeah.
Does that kind of, doesn't that, those are usually pretty easy to go through.
We have an authoritative platform from which we're making these decisions.
So I have, should I use the one that I sent you? Is that the best one?
Sure.
Okay,
Yep, that's the one I'm looking at right here.
okay, perfect. So let me share. Screens. Oh, that's fine.
So you filtered out the less than.
Yeah, I just carved it out.
I threw them down the bottom, cause
Yeah.
there's still some on the top from the download.
Yeah, I just, I sort of put all the Article 7 stuff on a different. I guess that'll, not as big as we can get it.
Would it be possible to send that to me?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
I can do that while Alex is driving.
Oh, perfect, thank you. And this is really just sorted, currently this is just sorted alphabetically by.
I sent it to you, Karen, if you needed a bigger version. And Vinny.
Thanks. It actually comes across pretty good.
I had this column. Project number. So I think the only one that I knew of. I think on this document that had a funding source. Other than ARPA. Was the perpetual care for the cemeteries. This $250,000, but. I couldn't. Reconcile whether that request was this year or was it next year. So I had in my notes as a next year.
No, so let me explain what's happening with that, and I specifically asked Chip to include that. Knowing that it didn't require fiscal advisory to vote on it because the funding source is sort of outside of what you typically would consider. But I wanted this group and the community to be aware that that project was happening. So the cemetery trustees have voted to proceed with architectural design and engineering for an expansion of the Mayflower Cemetery. They received proposals for the cost of that service. And they came in at approximately $250,000 was the winning proposal. The board has voted to move forward with that, and they are funding the cost of that design through the Cemetery Perpetual Care Fund.
Okay.
So it does have a funding source. It has followed the proper procedures, and that is actually underway. It just recently started with the Board of Cemetery Trustees. But again, I did have some department heads, and if this is not working for you, then let me know. But one of the takeaways that I got from last year's process, which was my first sort of iteration of Duxbury's capital program, is that folks want to know what's happening in town.
Yeah.
And we want to know what the projects are, and we want to know, how they're being funded and when we can expect to see some results and those types of things. So to that end, I've talked with department heads where I know that they have projects and I know that we have other alternative funding sources, but I want you guys to be aware of that. So this was one of them. I did have the fire department put in a couple of their capital requests that we were then able to get approval to use the opioid settlement funding to pursue those so that we don't have to use other existing town funds. So that's what's happening with those. That's why you're seeing them, but that was.
But it's good because there's gonna be an investment after the design.
Exactly.
So we should be forecasting that in our 5-year plan.
Yeah.
And I don't recall if they did anything for future,
There is a placeholder out there for the expansion.
okay,
And, when we get there, once we see what the design is and the cost proposals, then, we'll start to talk about sort of funding sources and.
Yeah.
And how much more the cemetery perpetual care would be able to absorb versus what we would be going to town meeting to
Right.
request.
yeah, no, that's the purpose of the 5-year plan.
Yep.
To.
Yeah, so I mean, we have historically, I think, put through, like, I remember equipment. Cemetery equipment that has been funded through perpetual care in Article 6 and just noted that. The funding mechanism was
Mhm.
the perpetual care, so. I just didn't know if that was gonna be sort of the same. Thing this year, but it already sounds like the project's sort of underway, so.
Yeah, so
What do you-
the use of cemetery perpetual care does not require town meeting approval.
Okay,
So we will not be including that as an item in Article 6.
okay. So I just set up these columns A, B, and C. What we've sort of historically done is sort of run down the list. And had a discussion about each item and dropped them in A priority, B priority, C priority. The way we've historically sort of categorized things is A is stuff we feel project has to be funded this year, it's safety, it's, an essential for the town for this year. B is if we can get some additional funding. These would be sort of our next set of priorities, and then C was. We sort of have to hit the lottery is sort of the bucket we put them in of, we'd have to have some incredible windfall. For the C stuff to get funded. Or things can wait for another year, but. That's been sort of our normal process, and we historically have gone. Just top to bottom. I'm happy to, so this listing is just currently. Sorted by department alphabetically. You'll notice in column A. Where I had department rankings. I tried to put those in, I apologize, I certainly may have missed some. And what you'll notice in column, E and column F are just some notes that either I dropped in or Mary have dropped in the notes column in column E, or what I tried to do in column F, I was just trying to reconcile between what the departments came to us, when they came to us with their meet and met with us through the fall. In their presentations, I just tried to reconcile all the projects there to make sure it was showing up on my sheet and that the dollars sort of matched. So that's sort of like audit, at, checked in column F. So there was, you'll notice a couple of things are missing. X's, and I think, sometimes they just either got, some of you'll notice will have a funding source through ARPA, so those just sort of came off our list and they had already been funded, so. But others we can sort of talk about. So I'm just actually gonna read. Okay, so. Should we just start at the top?
Sure.
Or are there certain topics we want to talk about first, or, I mean, the curriculum is certainly a topic I know is gonna take some discussion. I don't know if we want to start there.
Is there any thought on looking at this by department rank? So first figuring out, what the first priority was for each of these departments as ranked, and then putting them into the A, B, or C category?
Yeah, I mean, I have, so I think I currently only have rankings for the DPW. I don't remember, well, so that's like, that's everything under the bigger umbrella, so, cemeteries, DPW administration, highway, lands, sewer. I think there might be a little bit of priority on there with the facilities.
I have the priorities for facilities, townwide and schools, and I was looking real quickly, and I think you pretty much captured those. I just am wondering on facilities for schools, if you haven't, then I can tell you how she ranked them.
This had the ranking
Okay,
in the order that I listed them, is the order that they,
oh, yes, yeah, the order they presented was the order.
Like the bird netting, for example, at Chandler School is her top facility school project. That was
the
19,700.
district technology was the schools, oh no, the number two. The curriculum was one.
Curriculum 1, technology was 2, and then roof repairs,
Three.
3. Abatement,
I don't have,
abatement moved because it would be 20,000. So that would be capital A, HVAC. Which I think shows up in facilities.
Yeah, you did have it in. That Chandler School, $100,000 repair of the concrete, that was second priority facility.
And the bird netting. Yeah, I think that was. That's what I
Hydration
did.
was 3. That
Oh,
hydration right there station was 3.
So, those I thought they took that off.
Great.
Well, or I thought my understanding was. Oh, did I get that right?
Maybe
I,
her priority was different than the schools?
I thought the schools only had. Let me just grab the folder.
I'll have to pull up my,
Like, so you see the loading dock, let's see, where is it? Chandler loading dock repair, 100,000. That's 7 for the schools. That would be 2 for Katie. And district-wide abatement of asbestos would be 4.
Yeah, so I think they only got through. Their prioritized. List in their presentation goes. Curriculum, technology. Roof repair, abatement. HVAC. Wheelchair ramp, concrete slab, bird netting, softball field. And then on the next slide, they say additional capital needs not included in the FY 26 request. And they list, backup generators, hydration stations, cubbies, so they limited their request to us to that 1.4 million.
so I had. Curriculum, technology, roof repairs. The abatement for 20,000 was 4, the HVAC upgrades were 5. The wheelchair ramp was 6, the loading dock was 7, bird netting was 8. Softball field is now ARPA funds, the Alden generator. Now will be 9. District furniture was 10, district painting 11. Hydration stations was 12. Chandler Cubbies was 13. See, the stadium seating. The turf field was 14, Chandler Phase 2 was 15. Steel turf fencing was 16. Turf field scoreboard was 17, goalpost 19, and new turf field was.
If I can read on one of those, the stadium seating request. That has also been submitted as a CPC application.
Okay.
And my understanding is that community preservation, is in support of vetting that and potentially funding that.
But, so did you get those? Oh, you didn't do the priorities?
So I mean, in their presentation and everything after softball field, they're saying they're not including it in their 26 request.
I wasn't here and I didn't see any notes from the meeting, so I don't know. I'm just going from what I talked.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, so I think when they finally. Put their presentation together, I think they limited their request to the 1.4. I think they're pushing out. I just assumed to future years, everything else. The one struggle I had was, Mary, do you happen to know which project is the bird netting in the ClearGov?
Oh, let me see.
Because I couldn't for some reason, I couldn't easily
well, there were 2
distinguish it.
listed and one was for like 17. They total about 25 total,
Oh,
so
was it
probably
2?
all capital light anyways.
That-
I have it as 19,700 for bird netting.
Right, for one of them,
Oh, here they are, they're on, okay, yeah.
There's
19 and then,
2, one is for the Canty Wing and one is the
Got it.
Chandler for 19,785. And the other is the Canty Wing for 5,735.
so are we gonna, do you know, should we consider those as one and put them in Article 6? Or are those gonna be separate Article 7?
No, put them in Article 7. I'm going to, well, for now, you take them off your radar because
Okay.
I'm trying to determine whether I have available ARPA funding for that.
Perfect, okay. Yeah, cause there's a lot in Article 7, right? Jeez, it's big. Okay.
So they-
Yeah,
they don't-
just so you know, where I am right now is, there's interest earnings on the ARPA funds that we received, so they've been sitting in the bank account, we've earned interest, and we're allowed to use that interest earnings on additional projects. And so there's about $100,000. And so I'm trying to utilize that for what we would consider Article 7 items, to reduce the reliance on other reserves.
Is it still needing to be awarded and completed by the end of this
It
year?
is. It is, which is why I'm focusing on these smaller projects, because they're much more nimble, and they're able to be, either ordered or encumbered by December 31st.
They can be ordered but not received or complete?
Correct. It just needs to be obligated, formally obligated.
There were 9 items that they regarded as their high priority.
How do you formally obligate something?
I'm sorry, by issuing a purchase order to a vendor, either entering into a contract, or issuing a purchase order.
Doesn't need to be by the, well, would that be from the order of the board of selectmen then? Purchase order sign or
Nope, that's from my office.
anywhere?
1.4 million. 1.445.
Oh, yeah, so. And the softball field, I think, got ARPA funds and the bird netting. Sounds like it's gonna be maybe ARPA, so capitalizing, so. And I think the. Abatement would come off, 'cause that's.
That's 20, but that would be a great offer. They had the quote for it,
What's that one?
the abatement, asbestos abatement,
Yeah, the 20 grand,
it should be in Article 7 anyways.
yeah.
Would it help if I suggested that we mark those 9 items as priority 1 for the schools?
Where did we get priority 1 for this?
Mhm.
All 9?
You wanted to divide things into 3 levels of.
See,
Oh, yeah, so I mean, I just went through, so I put, curriculum 1, technology 2,
Oh, you actually are prioritizing those.
yes,
Right.
yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So that assumes this is in their priority order. I think I
It-
asked that
yeah.
question in.
They did say it was in there. So, okay, so now that we have. Some items with priority rankings, do we want to tackle those first? And we can do. I can hide some departments, let me just hide it.
Mary, do we have a target budget?
Mhm. Sorry, you caught me at just the right time, Vinny. 2 million,
Capital to
it is, 2 million in free cash.
free cash. Which would be what in free cash we think out that.
Um, about 1.5, so our free cash has not yet been certified, but based on my calculations. That would leave about 1.5, which would then be used for other articles and replenishing reserves. And so I have a number of items that are earmarked, to go forward to town meeting.
So Article 6, 2 million.
Should we just address the things that are highlighted to say why and clean those up? Are they missing or
What do you mean?
you're saying missing the generators under sewer?
Yeah, I just said they weren't in, they weren't in ClearGov. So they're in our sheet. They
Oh,
just weren't-
okay.
there just wasn't a corresponding project in ClearGov. So, this listing. Started with a download from ClearGov.
Right,
And
And
then
then
I
we had
went through and I looked at the department, what they presented to us. And if there was something that the department presented to us but wasn't in ClearGov, I added the line for it here.
great, okay, got it.
So on two of those articles, or two of those projects, if you will, the sewer system, generators. And then the, this says generators at Mayflower and Tremont Wells. Doesn't say FY 2025. Let's see, we cleared up. So what happened was there were two large projects that we had initially intended to use ARPA funding for. Those two projects went out to bid. And what happened was there was a technical flaw in the RFP. So we actually had to reject the bid responses. And there was not sufficient time to go back out to bid before the ARPA deadline. So we had to take those off the ARPA schedule and put them in the capital schedule, which is part of what freed up some ARPA funding that we've been trying to quickly utilize before the deadline. So that's why they were not initially being cleared of. We do have the RFP for those projects that, and I'm sure Mark spoke to them for you guys. But I can send that information if that's something that you need to see.
Yeah, I mean, are they, I mean, just, I mean, for tracking purposes, are they gonna put those into ClearGov with the supporting?
I can have him do that. I have not,
Okay.
but I can shoot him a message right now. I will do that.
Yeah,
while I'm
it just
thinking of it.
for.
Yep.
All right, so I've just sorted this list now. This is every department, and this is just ranked 1 through 18, looks like, and then a number of sort of unranked.
Okay.
So start with PowerPoint bridge repairs.
So that's for the state inspection. Is there any choice but to repair it?
I don't think so.
Right. And I think Sheila had said that what they had reserved last year wasn't enough when the bids came in. So this is to complete the repairs that were identified. So I'd call it an A.
Yeah.
And
Anyone feel strongly it's not A?
I get concerned about it because of, it's more than 10% of the total budget. Wait till we get the curriculum.
Yeah, and I mean, what we've historically done in the past is we, you know. We have put a little bit of blinders on of. What is, you know. What do we feel needs to get done this year, or things we've already encumbered technically? Things like Chromebooks and things like that, so. And, let's see where the dollars fall out. After we've gone through the process, and we can,
right, if we have 4 million of A's, we have to go back through.
Right. Right.
But in this one, if we don't do it, the bridge closes, or the state could, that's an extreme, the state could say.
Yeah. All right,
Yeah, I'd wait until we get through the whole process. Well, we make a decision about that.
And I think that's. Then you value that it should be a B. Which is, I think the A's are, we kind of unanimously agree need to be
Yeah.
done, the B is.
He needs
We
discussion.
want to do it, but we gotta prioritize it, relation to everything else being asked for.
The A's total more than 2 million, we don't even go to the B's.
Right.
Just trying.
okay, we'll put it in B for now. And we'll come back to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or do right, library chiller.
But then put everything in B then, if we're not putting something that's required by the state as an A.
Maybe by the end of tonight, we might be able to move to an A, is my thinking. It's just right off the bat.
Okay,
Today to me, I mean, right now, but
right,
yeah, price could be higher.
Yeah, I mean, we're, I mean, just, I mean, put things into perspective, right, like. We get to. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The first 6 is 2.083 million dollars.
right. But I thought we were going by, the department said that's their number one priority.
This is tough for me because I don't.
So if they've already done the assessment and said that's their top priority. And it's not an A, then, okay. All right,
Maybe I'm gonna do.
I can't see a thing and I don't have any other way to see it.
So we'll put bridge in B for now and come back to it.
Not blocking any.
Library chillers,
I mean, that's A, because that's what Katie's number one priority was for everything that she's looking at townwide.
yeah, I'm in an A camp.
Me too.
I missed this whole presentation. What is a chiller? Yeah.
It's like the cooling system. You know, it's part of the larger heating.
Okay. Does it sound like a refrigerator unit?
It's just that throw $40,000 at it in repairs with no guarantee that
Yeah.
that will get us a repaired chiller.
Completely agree.
Yeah. All right, curriculum, here we are.
That would be a B, that would be a B for me.
me too.
Me too.
Would you guys consider splitting it?
Yeah, and so I'm just to fill everyone in on some conversations, I think there's an. They've sort of. The horse is a little bit out of the barn on one side of this curriculum, from my understanding, is. So it's, if I remember correctly, it's elementary literacy. High school math are the two components, one's 350, one's 300.
Yeah.
And. The literacy one, they've trialed this and had some, apparently they've had success with it and they really like it. And they would, I think, like to continue with it going forward. The math one. I think if we had to kick the can down the road. And they went forward next year. I think they could live with that. You know, there's also a potential of. You know. The school you typically has some turnbacks at the end of the year, if they really wanted the math, they could buy it at the end of the fiscal year with. The turnback money.
And they could get grant money too.
Maybe,
That's how they paid for the last.
that's how they got the first year of literacy.
Alex, why don't you split that row into 2 and divide it into 300 and 350?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, I could do, this will probably be the easiest thing. Do we know, I forget, let me go in there. All right, so the elementary reading is the 350, the math is the 300. So.
Is
I
element,
guess would people put the literacy as an A, the 350?
I'd still be a B on that.
I would be a
Okay.
B until we get through this whole process. I mean, I'd really love to see this fall under their operating budget versus a capital request.
I guess. Here's, I think where I would struggle a little bit is. I think it does meet the definition of capital. It's. Oh, has a life, it's over $25,000 and it's over 5-year lifespan. I. Certainly. This is. An interesting one because going back to sort of historical records. We've purchased books once, and that goes back to like 2008. Which if everyone remembers, we are coming out of a recession. And I believe it was not in Article 6, I believe there was a separate article for about $1 million worth of stuff. Part of that was a line item for books. For the school, but it was about $1 million of other things. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head how much the books were. It wasn't a huge number, but there is. Somewhat precedence for something like this. I.
To me, the closest thing I compare this to is the police cars.
Yeah,
You can make an argument either way.
yeah. Yeah,
It's in the normal course of business, they need this material.
yeah, and it's,
But it's a little bit different. The school budget is supposed to cover maintenance also, where the police cars and capital don't. The
Yeah, no, they're not exactly the same. You can make an argument that it could be in one budget or the other. That's all I'm saying.
yeah, and I guess, the other thing too, right, is if this isn't something they're buying every year, right, so if you add it to the operating budget. Are you gonna remember the next year to take it out?
but it's an.
That's fair. I agree that both lines should be in B. And come back to them. My feeling is that this request did come in pre-MCAS. And they may find 2 years into this program that they're going down the wrong tree and want to revise the curriculum again. Because I've been through this. Not in Duxbury, but I've been through it. And I'm not an expert in this by any stretch of the imagination, but I have seen curriculums go in, not meet the intended goals based on test scores, and then all of a sudden it's like, no, we need to change this. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly have. My own concerns about it,
And if we put it in B, maybe I do have to talk to some of the schools, but maybe the whole committee doesn't, maybe I just have to make myself comfortable with it.
so I put in 4 Bs and 1 A.
Sounds like my report card.
Alright. Let's.
That still earns an ice cream, Vinny.
Alright, I'll put it in B for now and we can, we'll circle back at the end of the meeting, we're not.
Are any of these suitable for borrowing?
In terms of curriculum or which one?
Oh, well, you're the one who usually picks out what you want to put into borrowing.
Mhm.
Have you done that? Have you had an opportunity to think about that?
My short answer is no.
Okay, good. Mine is no too. Sewer.
Sure. So electrical upgrades at the school treatment plant.
Yep, I would say yes.
I would say A on this one. Pretty convinced that this could become a recurring, really, really bad problem that doesn't get taken care of.
Is there a reason to bundle the technology into one pile? I have the breakdown of it here, if that's of any interest.
Oh, just the different components of the
Yeah.
technic, yeah,
I think this has to be a B based on budget, like, you know, like this takes a big chunk.
It's the same item as the Powder Point Bridge repairs. It's important, but it's a huge chunk of money.
Yeah, they have access points for 80K. Projectors for 90K. Chromebooks for 74K. Sound system for 36K and laptops for administration for 15K. We could pick at this, I think. I don't know
We
enough.
have one approach to put things in A and then back it out, or like just put it in B because of the cost of it. But
I'm happy with that because,
I think this should go into A.
your logic, Karen.
Kind of what Candace is saying, we know we're gonna go over budget by the time we get to the end of this list. So then we're gonna have to go back and reassess our As. And
Rather than
this,
B's, right?
yeah, and I feel as if there's a lot built into all of that, but the commitment on the Chromebooks and everything else, it's kind of a continuation of kind of a commitment we've already made for these replacements.
this doesn't include the Chromebooks though, Karen.
Oh, it doesn't.
No, this is for the Chromebooks for the teachers or the.
well, this is like fifth grade, it's fifth grade Chromebooks.
Yeah.
So those kids are currently using,
Right.
the old MacBooks that were now replaced. All right, we're on our second lease of Chromebooks, so those are now going on 10 years old.
All right, then let's put it into B.
Yeah, my thinking is that's a good thing to do. Because if we have. Not reached the 2 million in A, then we can go back and deal with these guys.
There's no chance we're gonna be,
Oh, okay.
I mean, it just, I mean, based on the list, right, there's.
Fire department fuel island upgrades.
I'm all for this, but this looks like a borrowing item. I mean, I would support it as a borrowing item.
Would that be a higher priority than the bridge repairs?
To me, it's very high,
Oh, it's
based on the
high.
presentation on it, so. Bridge repair, we kind of have a gun to our head on that one, I think. We have to do that, so that makes it an A to me, but this one is of the ones we have some discretion on, it's pretty high in my list based on the presentation on it. The fact that people are pumping gas with water going in the tank at the same time and things like that, it's kind of insane.
So,
It just accelerates problems down the road for everything else we have.
Right.
my concern with this, however, is you're putting together an FY 26 capital plan. And if we were to identify borrowing as the funding mechanism, that means that we're talking about increasing our debt service budget in order to pay this back. If you participated or followed along in last night's conversation at the finance committee meeting, the town manager presented a balanced budget with our known expenses for FY 26. And that balanced budget reflected a wide variety of reductions across the community because we do not have revenues to support the existing expenses. And this would not be supported under that balanced budget. There is not capacity in the debt service budget right now for FY 26 to handle that.
So Mary, your objective is to get to the balanced budget posture, right?
We have no choice. We are legally obligated to present a balanced budget.
How does the discussion of override fit into that policy?
In terms of, so the intent is that we will be recommending an override be pursued by the community and that it will be presented to the voters at the March town meeting. And if that passes, then there would be the potential for capacity to fund these types of items in FY 26.
How does that work? Did you?
Yeah.
So
They pass.
annual town in the special at the annual or during the annual?
During the annual. In terms of the presenting an override budget,
Yeah,
so that
How-
would be,
how does that, would it be at the beginning of Article 5?
it would be secondary to Article 5. So we have to present Article 5, which represents a balanced budget.
Okay,
That balanced budget includes layoffs across the community. And at a minimum, we have to pass a balanced budget that is supported with our existing revenues. Otherwise, we are unable to set a tax rate and begin our operations for
Okay.
July 1.
Yep.
So what will happen is Article 5 will be presented, and then right after Article 5 will be a contingency budget. That would be the supplemental appropriation or the additional override funding that we are requesting. And if that passes at town meeting and passes 2 weeks later at the ballot box, then we would have the capacity to take on additional.
but so it's still part of Article 5.
There may be 5A,
Sort
5B,
of.
or maybe
Yeah,
5
yeah,
and 6.
Another motion or whatever.
Correct.
So then will that contain the line item increases in various budgets?
It will.
Okay,
Including fiscal.
so the town is voting,
Apparently somebody's looking for a meeting. What meeting are you looking for, sir?
The AA district meeting,
Oh, it's
Not here.
not in-
not here,
Yeah.
changes.
It must be downstairs, given the crowd. that's
House
coming here,
that
but-
it's two different shades.
We're just
of
looking for a
blue.
username and
Crazy.
password stuff from, do you guys know the usernames to get into the computers?
there's a piece of paper over here.
Piece of paper, thank you.
Oh, there we
Oh,
go.
that's just the Wi-Fi.
I think it's,
Is it,
I think
is it showing up?
The TV's already on.
Yeah, user.
It's just user.
Lowercase user.
Just the word user.
Correct.
And it didn't work. I'll try that again. Thank you
Or
guys.
You're trying to make the owl work? or-
No, we're trying to get in, there's a computer within the TVs.
Oh,
So, you know, like a.
yeah, last time I was here, I just hooked up my laptop, sorry.
No worries.
Okay, let's get back.
User.
Yes,
I'll get it.
thank you, Benny.
So I guess is there,
I don't think that'll help.
would there be a 6A and 6 and 6A motion to go along with that, right? Like if we decided that above and beyond the 2 million in free cash that were allocated, if we feel that there are some items that need to be debt financed, could that be, could it be 6 and 6A and say, if 5A goes and we include some debts, would we include debts? I guess where I get a little like chicken and egg thing is. If we present 5B, the real needs budget at in March. Would that include, would it have a line item for anticipated debt service of things that would come up in 6B?
The override discussion should be after 5 base surplus that they may not be able to vote on. But that's why you wanted to have the override decision before that, so that there's. But you need to include the Article 6 override also, don't you? I
So,
think that's where you're headed.
yeah, that's the question that he's asking. We would have to go through the logistics of that with town council.
Okay.
And what I suspect is that we may end up having to prepare 2 different motions for Article 6, and depending upon what happens with. We'd have to go through the logistics of that with
Yeah.
town council,
Okay.
because it's not only dependent upon 5A and B,
Mhm.
it's also dependent upon a ballot vote.
Yeah,
So
So the
there's,
problem is that it's kind of messy
yeah,
to utilize or assume that we're gonna utilize a borrowing as a funding source
Mhm.
during this process.
so there's several outcomes possible at town meeting, recognizing the next hurdle for town voting. Or ballot, town elections. You could pass a. Operating budget and an operating budget extension with an override and not pass an override extension for capital.
Correct?
Okay,
If we were to present it that way.
now, it's possible that the town would vote down the balanced budget,
I
I
would
mean,
hope-
the town meeting.
Not the balanced budget.
Not-
I
That
would
wouldn't
hope
even,
not.
that wouldn't even be an item for them. We don't put that before them.
We do, that's
do.
Article 5.
Yeah, that is Article 5.
It's our standard
At the
operating.
town, at the town meeting,
Correct.
not at the ballot box.
That's correct. That is correct.
I mean, it's conceivable that the town meeting would object to a poorly funded budget. That's all.
As many committee members who are reviewing this budget have expressed their concern. However, they recognize that we are obligated to prepare and pass a balanced budget. As unpalatable as it may seem. And then the second or following article would address those deficiencies.
Boy, Tuffy's gonna have to be in his toes at this meeting. It's gonna be tough.
That's interesting. We can.
Cause I can see people getting up and doing line item amendments to the balanced budget.
Right. Because they can do
Saying,
that.
I don't
That's
want
part of
this,
the-
cut somewhere else. Don't cut this one.
yeah, I mean, I think. If that starts to happen.
Yeah.
It's gonna get ugly, right? We're gonna have to. Because it's to be balanced, we're either gonna have we're gonna have to have either pretty much come to a halt. And start. Reallocating on the floor of town meeting or adjourn and come back.
I would hope that folks recognize that there has been a lot of thought, consideration and effort.
Yeah.
Put into developing this balanced budget that contains some undesirable outcomes, very much so. And it affects a large number of departments, which would then in turn affect services that this community is currently accustomed to. I would hope that they understand and would not try to deconstruct all of the effort that has gone into that.
That would be.
And that if they are truly wishing to restore some of the deficiencies that are in that balanced budget, that they would take that up in the subsequent article.
This is all good stuff for Clipper articles as well as previews of the process itself.
It is, but I appreciate these kinds of questions because this is a unique situation for this community. And we want to make sure that those questions get answered. And we also want to make sure that the process is logical and that folks are able to
So that raises the
vote
question
properly.
of whether or not Betsy should. Whether the process should identify the balanced budget items to be challenged. Or only for additional information on what it's for, maybe perhaps only. Because if you get to the end of that and you have challenges, maybe people, because they would have been informed as to regards to budget finance process. They might choose that process as a way of saying, well, we don't need any more music in here, so they would say, I wanna talk about that line item. And
Um,
then,
so
then
with
expand it
respect,
into their big,
they
issue.
could, so with, the interesting thing is with respect to the school department budget,
It's a one
One
line.
line.
yep, you cannot do that. You absolutely cannot, make any line item changes to the school department budget.
correct, yeah,
All right, if we
that's
go,
half of the budget.
Exactly.
So we're back to
Yeah, so I guess
fuel department.
there's,
Sounds like we just said, we've already had the discussion, it's still a B.
right, we definitely want to do it and support it, but
I think the whole point of right
That's
now,
what quarter-
tonight, is we gotta pick the low hanging fruit that we can afford and put them all in the A
right,
bucket and see
and
what's
some of the
left.
fees, we go back and do partial fund, if they got the engineering quotes yet
For,
for the fuel.
well, so that's, I'm not aware if they have or not. And so the suggestion would be that for this process, we fund the design and engineering.
Right,
And then we come back and look at the construction of that next year, which I know is not desirable, but at least there would be a roadmap.
right,
So there is still 70, based on that email, the email that I sent to you guys, before this meeting.
70,000 and you can,
Correct, let me find it.
but I don't know what the engineering.
Yeah, it was 70,866 remains under that article, which could be used for design and engineering. But our DPW director had indicated that that would be insufficient. So in this particular case, we would need to know the amount, and ideally fund it through this process.
Well, but we could do, like how the numbers work out, like say appropriate 250, so you're doing the engineering and ordering the long lead equipment. And then and purchasing it so that next year you would do the installation.
That assumes that the installation will be funded.
Right.
And it would,
So then we would.
so you don't have a full appropriation, everything's subject to appropriations. I think that that would be a little risky.
It would, okay. All right, well, that's,
Because I can tell you that if we only proceed forward with a balanced budget for FY 26, the likelihood of us generating any meaningful free cash at the end of that year is going to be, the likelihood would be extremely
Yeah.
slim.
Yeah, right.
so we wouldn't, yeah, okay. So that's a B, but it's not out, it's,
I mean, I guess technically we could. If we wanted to sort of bifurcate. Something away from. The risk of an override. We could put another article out for exempt debt or some things for capital.
But that's a big ask of the community, though.
Yeah. So there would be.
And then that would be a second
It'd be-
question
it'd
on the
be-
ballot,
We have
which
two questions on the ballot.
I'm not going to recommend.
all right, well, let's put it B for now and see how we end up with the A's,
Yeah.
because it's
We're gonna have
it's a
to,
tough.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I agree. Carpets,
C,
C,
Well, is that a, ARPA fund option? You can order carpet.
I don't know that I am gonna get to that level. There's a
Alright.
lot of capital light items.
Oh, okay, yeah, but within the next.
yeah, isn't this right at
Alright.
the, isn't this right at the capital light threshold?
It is,
So put it in C. With a note to maybe capital light. All right,
Roof repairs.
I think the district-wide roof repairs need to be A.
Did they present, I wasn't here for the schools, did they present a plan as to how they will spend $50,000 each year?
So yeah, this is mostly, Katie. From,
Facilities. It was her plan.
yeah, her big thing was roof and HVACs.
What if it was 30,000 every year? If it was 20,000 every year?
Well, I think that's why she did the assessment. She did a pretty deep dive on her assessment of all systems and buildings. This is what she feels is needed to be able to really get up to par. It's maintenance that hasn't happened. And it's leading to greater repairs. A greater costs.
So.
I'm okay with an A.
This is the priority would be in Alden. And they recently spent 9 to 12,000. On the Alden gym is patching. So that's. Based on what they've been historically spending for the last 8 years. Or. Forecast for the next 8 years, they need 50,000 a year.
But I think she's looking to use the money district-wide, not just,
Yeah, I mean, I think it's giving her,
Latitude to
Yeah.
do the,
yeah,
to avoid the larger expenses.
but then the school doesn't normally cover these. But I guess that's the point, they don't have any maintenance budgets. Okay, I put it for an A.
Yeah, I'm okay with an
um. Over and bridge assessment management.
It's great, but I put it as a C for now.
I would too.
A, okay. HVAC upgrades.
Again, this is Katie having done her own assessment and determining that we're behind the 8 ball on replacements and upgrades. And if she could have a regular flow of 25 grand each year, she thinks that she could have an impact on getting ahead of what needs to be done for these things before we have major failures. So again, as a general maintenance investment of $25,000 a year, to me, that was an A.
So one of the things I'm just gonna sort of interject here, and I hope I don't confuse the situation, however. The facilities budget, there is a line item in there called property repairs and maintenance. That in the budget that I'm referring to would be for townwide facilities, because the school has funding in their budget for their own facilities. One of the things that we are attempting to do is to apply more funding, more resources to the property repairs and maintenance line so that we're able to address these ongoing issues. And so there is an amount that's in the balanced budget, but then there is a higher amount that would be proposed for the override budget. I would suggest that if the override does pass, then this would be an item that would not need to be funded via capital, that it would be able to be taken care of through the additional funding in that operating line.
That's
So-
great.
Put it as a C for now.
See with another foot,
I would, And I'm going to remain optimistic.
So is that does that cover the next two line items?
Yeah,
which
I
is-
was wondering
Yeah,
about the
With
school.
the, I'm sorry, I can't see the next two.
The
items.
It's the
HVAC
school,
upgrade for
HVAC,
the school and
Yeah,
town.
timeline and school. These two, right?
So I don't know that the increase would cover all of that. But I would suggest that, we recognize that HVAC and roofs are our top two priorities and problems.
And they're also more capital intensive than maintenance is. Maintenance is an operating thing, really.
It is, and we should be having sufficient funding in the operating budget to address those, and they do spend a great deal of time on HVAC and roof issues. I would suggest that we've applied a couple $100,000 of ARPA funding for both HVAC and roof issues, and I know that it's only scratching the surface, but that may be something that we should consider for the following capital program.
Yeah, we'll have a better sense, even for the next fiscal year on these. Depending on whether there's an override or there isn't an override. And I love,
Right.
and I never realized, and that was a great thing to point out, that there are opportunities to be able to address this in that other operating budget.
Yeah.
That's good.
Now, is there any benefit for, like, the line item we have is school district-wide roof repairs to make that roof and HVAC? So that they have an allowance that they could use for either one?
Or, yeah, in terms of the article, yeah, absolutely. I would call it, yeah, facility. You could even be more broad that, the intent is to address whatever priority issues arise. Typically, they're roof and HVAC issues, but should something else fail, that they would have the flexibility of using that funding for school-related facility upgrades.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Just a question, do we really think of these as Cs or do we think of these as Bs to be in the override? The Cs are ones that I would even question whether or not it should be in the override.
That's a
I
good
think
point.
we're not saying all Cs are in an override.
So I'm thinking that in Frank's mind, there's a category of D that is, we're not even gonna consider.
Yeah, but we're not even considering the Bs. B might be the override when we see the value.
That's why I would move these into the B and not into
Okay,
the C.
fair enough.
So are both of these the sort of the same?
Yeah,
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
they are. And I would feel comfortable that, $75,000, that's what you're talking about for these two particular items. That should the override pass, that those would be able to be addressed under the increase that we're proposing for that budget.
I'd delay on the sheds a year. I don't know how much we're waiting for. It's hard to balance it all. I'm glad we have Mary.
Sewer generators.
So this is for the sewer treatment plant that isn't on emergency
Yep.
power?
Yeah.
That's an A in my mind. I mean, that was a real,
So A,
It's an A for me, and just.
it was a major.
The original request when they came in and presented on sewer was 250,000 was their 13th priority. SBR mechanical upgrades, are we talking about the same thing?
I
I don't remember, I don't have
No, I
two
think
hundred and fifty thousand.
that was a.
You're saying it wasn't
mechanical
good?
issue for the sewer systems
So
there.
that's, I have down here as 200.
Sewer system, the original list we got was the electrical upgrades, we've already talked about that. Then there was a Bay Road sewer design, forget that, sewer system maintenance upgrade, 200,000. And then 250,000 for the mechanical upgrades that go hand in hand with the electrical upgrades, but the mechanical were not as
I think
critical.
this generator wasn't even on the.
Was it
list
even on the priority list?
Because
originally?
that was gonna be covered under
It's gonna be
our.
ARPA funded.
And that's no longer our. Here's about it all.
And the sewer maintenance is just ongoing maintenance.
You have it
that
down
hasn't
below,
been
I see it
done.
now, okay. Sewer is not, can't use water money for sewer, so I don't ask.
Sure.
But what do they do with the money collected for the sewer?
General fund. Sewer is not an enterprise, it's in the general fund.
Given
So
the-
what were these generators gonna be used for?
Differentiate, okay.
Like at the high school, there would be a generator.
Yeah, they have a sewer treatment plant that doesn't have its own generator, so when the power went out. Generators couldn't handle the toilets in the school, they closed the school.
Well, they had to, yeah.
They had to pump the shit because they couldn't.
They
run the
couldn't open
plant.
this, there was a point
Had
last
to
year.
take it
they
off
couldn't-
property.
They couldn't open the school, because the school had power, but that part of. Didn't,
And most of that was during the summer that they.
I put this in the category of a major oversight.
okay, so generators A. Transfer station trailer,
I'd say either a B or a C.
I'm happy with B.
Given the ticket item on it, in this year's budget, I'd say C.
everyone feels strongly about a B.
No,
Chandler back ramp,
B,
Yeah. I looked at it.
Yep.
It's. It's definitely needs to be repaired. I'd say the loading dock repair is
Yeah.
needed more.
B and A for the loading dock.
anyone feel differently?
I'm not for that.
Cemetery utility cart,
My suspicion is we're gonna have to come back and redo all this. I put it as a B for now,
Yeah,
to see where we get after we get all the A's that we feel strongly about. We'll never get to the B's, right? Alex?
well,
Just the police cars alone are gonna put us in the,
um.
I'm sorry.
Highway, the,
Oh, I don't.
actually, I'm just gonna change
Dump truck.
something real quick, I'm gonna put the dollar amounts here, just so I can total easier. Give me 1 second.
You can just round it to the thousands.
you need another screen, Alex, with a sum if in there.
you split the screen?
Good job, Alex.
We'll have to put these all in B, but dump truck number 10. I'd say B for now.
Line 25, the dump truck, B.
Yep.
Check 22.
Yeah. I can't make a decision of difference between the two trucks, so I'd
Yeah,
go with
and
the
it's a
B.
low-
That's another one that was opera when we first looked at it.
That
No,
was-
definitely not for trucks, no.
That was ranked higher, that, or,
Oh,
Lower
I'm misreading my
priority than the
sheet,
other
sorry. It's ranked lower than the other items.
So does that make it a C?
How about a C?
yeah,
Thank you.
the Washington Street sidewalks would have to be a C.
Yeah,
C.
C on some of the sidewalks.
Unless we want to create a D. I'm all for putting it in E.
The sewer system maintenance, this is to, does this Mark's budget have any normal maintenance for sewer in it, or? Is this with,
Not to the tune of 200,000, not even remotely close.
but this isn't like a specific, it's just ongoing sewer maintenance.
Yeah, this
So,
was like year 1 of 5.
Yeah, which,
200,000 every year, yep.
um,
How does Mary feel about it?
if we put it as a B, we might be able to reduce the amount.
this is sort of one of those placeholders that, so, if you think of, like, under the water enterprise, every year the town would vote $150,000 for system upgrades or system rehabilitation or whatever, system improvements, I think was the description.
Yeah,
And
used to be
that's,
rehab way back in the day, but
okay. And so that's sort of the same concept that Mark's looking for here is another way to supplement the operating budget with an annual one. Utilizing
These
revenue.
funded out of the revolving fund?
I'm sorry,
Are these
sewer?
funded out of the water fund?
No, not at all. This is
that's what I just
sewer.
talked about, yeah,
Well, sewer is separate from water.
Sewer is definitely separate from water.
unfortunately.
And even if it were not, water has limited funding available as well.
Okay.
So I would put it in B,
Me too.
and then in some of the Bs, we could reduce.
Correct.
His discussion of the Bay Road issue was somewhat disturbing. There's a tube that needs to be replaced
Yeah.
in 45 different places along the sewer.
No,
Oh, no,
you're
no.
thinking of-
Are those the goosenecks?
yeah, you're talking about the water.
Oh, that's
I-
water, right?
That's
There it
the-
No,
is.
this is the Bay Road sewer upgrade. That's all the houses that front
Yeah.
the water that we put in the shared system and it pumps to the
Yeah.
Wadsworth baseball field. And it hasn't been looked at since it was installed. It's got,
This was like a clean out, there's an issue with the clean out valve on the end.
it's one of these items where can ignore it until it costs $2 million to fix.
Well, I mean, it's upsizing the piping that's going down into.
It's all valid stuff, unlike
Right,
everything
yeah.
else is on here. it's-
But
it's-
couldn't that be a betterment to those 29 homes that are
I
serviced?
think we
by
talked
the
about
way?
that. I don't think you can put betterments in after the fact.
This is maintenance, I'm sorry, I was trying to follow something else. Is
You
this
do it in-
maintenance or is this an upgrade?
Upgrade.
Hmm. It was mostly maintenance, if I remember right.
If it's maintenance, the answer is no.
It's called upgrade and it's to upsize the piping and reconfiguring the valve and the transition.
I don't think you can upgrade the piping for 35,000. I seem to recall this was cleaning out connections.
I have the notes. It's 5 to 6 manholes require piping upsizing from a 2-inch PVC force main.
I think we might be talking the same thing. I think it's the connection. It's
The-
not the
Well,
whole
this
pipe.
is the 35,000.
Yeah.
And this was reviewed by Mark. And when we met.
Yeah, but they're talking about where the manholes are, or where there's these connections, where you got multiple houses coming in, all those pipes, and then if the manholes, there's connection, then there's more connection, then it all ends up in Wadsworth. It's the connections that they want to replace, because they haven't been replaced. It's not all piping would cost millions. Yeah.
It's not all the piping, but it's at the manhole.
Yeah.
It transitions down to a 2-inch PVC and there's cast iron
Yeah.
valves that, so
So
it's to upgrade
Same
and that's
line.
why it's called that, but it. Certainly betterments can be done.
Where was this on his priorities?
Ahead of the sewer maintenance upgrades and the mechanical upgrades.
Or.
I'd have to explore the scope of this project to determine whether betterments could be assessed or not. Because if it truly falls under just general maintenance, then the answer is no.
Right, but you're making physical improvements to it, so.
Yeah, but maintenance also makes physical improvements, like
No, you're replacing in kind.
we'd have to look at the scope of it.
All right, well. It's further
B.
down on his priority, it's number 4
B for now.
or C.
I'd like to go B, we find out more about it again.
And chances are we would ignore the Cs if we ever got into the Bs a bit.
I mean, we might find that of all the Bs, a 35,000 ticket item might slot in somewhere.
Where are you getting the 35,000? Cause I'm looking, are you guys talking about sewer?
12,
Bay Road.
line item 29.
Oh,
Bay
okay,
Road
I
sewer.
was still stuck up on the one highlighted in
We
yellow
put-
that is
we
clearly
put-
described as.
We put that one in
maintenance.
B.
That's where I thought you guys were.
Yeah, I know.
I see, okay. So you're talking about the 35,000 for the upgrades. We can assume that could be a betterment. And I will have to get back to you on that.
30, so putting it in B is okay with that? DPW road something.
Yeah, this is another one where he wants,
I think that's a C, right? Isn't that the long-term?
Yeah.
it's an ongoing, he has 100,000, increasing to 150, increasing to 200, increasing to 250, increasing to 300,000. On a 5-year plan,
This is road preservation?
yeah,
And that's in addition, so this would have been from Sheila, is that, or
Yeah.
Norm?
Yes.
Is that in addition to chapter 90 funding?
Yes.
Yes.
yeah.
It's that plan. It's to create the plan on how to go about spending the chapter 90 money. And I think it'd be great to have, but I think in this budget, it's the $100,000 is going to be needed for something more imminent than a plan.
Yeah, there's 2.
They even rank it
there's-
below Washington Street sidewalks.
C,
There's 2 different projects. One was the pavement management, which is chapter 90 funds that was gonna be removed from the list, right? And this was following the pavement management program. There's 536,000 of funds that are not sufficient to cover all of the roads that are in poor condition.
So is this particular item called road preservation and paving? This is not the plan, this is the actual construction.
Right, the plan was already done.
Okay. Or in the process. She was using, I believe she was using chapter 90 money to do the plan,
Oh, okay.
if I remember correctly. So this would be for construction, so we haven't even gotten the plan yet.
B or C.
So it would be,
I
yeah,
get it for a C myself. I like to live with B.
I have it as C as well.
yeah, I could go with the C.
Alex? You okay with that?
All right, sequence batch reactor upgrade.
P,
What was Mark's priority on that?
I think that was the mechanical upgrade.
I think there's two
250?
SBR items on
Yeah.
his request. I didn't bring his sheet, do you have it?
So I have this,
I
I have
have
this as his number,
Yeah, that's why I'm asking.
yeah.
I know that this is critical.
Yeah, the electrical upgrade was number 1.
Okay. And what was the actual,
The mechanical X.
so this one here would be for the actual tanks.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, sorry, I had his electrical as number 1.
Yeah, electrical was number 1. And number 3 was, you originally had the SBR mechanical upgrade as part of the sewer maintenance, 125,000. And now it's broken out, sewer maintenance for 200, and then the SBR mechanical upgrade
For how much?
for 250. So I would put this specific one higher than the sewer maintenance, the general one.
So you wanna try an A and see what happens?
But Mark had that. That's the second lowest priority
Oh, really?
when he presented.
I see that list.
His priorities in
But-
order were
but
the
that was
SBR
the-
electrical upgrade, which we all agreed with.
The
Then the
sewer-
sewer maintenance, 200,000, then 250,000 for generators, Bay Road upgrades. And then
So when we,
SBR mechanical upgrade,
Right.
which is I think what we're talking about.
so when we met with Mark, the sewer maintenance was the top priority, and within that was gonna be the mechanical upgrade to do the design and engineering study. Within that 200,000.
Hmm.
But then he broke it out separately, saying he just got so he needs to do the design and engineering. Now, so either that's done under the sewer maintenance for 200. And then do,
Which is the line item that you guys just talked about, potentially
Right.
reducing the.
so it's one or the other, I guess, if we. He has more information now on the SBR mechanical to do the design and execution. So
Should
that
we-
would be a higher priority than,
Yeah, here's a situation. The sewer system, has not had the attention that it has needed in the past decade. And Mark has, inherited a lot of what are now becoming points of failure. And so he's looking for a lot of funding to deal with this sewer system.
Yeah,
And unfortunately, we are the largest customer of our sewer system. So there's not a whole lot of opportunity to, you know, assess betterments to deal with some of these things, that it does become a general fund issue. Some of these would be, you know, ideal candidates for debt. To do, you know, the SBR, mechanical upgrades, those types of things, if we were not able to fund it with one-time revenues.
right. So I would put the SBR upgrade, if not an A, a B, and the other general one as a C. Like we gotta do one or the other. And then one is giving him the discretion and the other is, Yeah,
My
or-
recollection was when he talked about these items, he talked about. Mechanical does have to get done someday. The electrical has to get done.
Yeah.
And then he prioritized sewer maintenance, the ongoing sewer maintenance item,
I
200,000 as his next highest after the electrical upgrade.
Which is sort of a generic
Yeah.
bucket.
Yeah, and he can do
It
it.
is, and he could even do some of the mechanical upgrades under it if he needed to. So
The
that, I
only
think
thing
that
is-
gives him more discretion. I would rather see him get that one item.
yeah, the only thing is he's estimated the mechanical upgrade. Now at 250.
Yes, which is higher than originally.
Which
thought.
is that based on, did he indicate if it was based on any kind of quote?
He had gone out to get a quote on the design and engineering, I don't know what. Put forth on this 250 if he got a quote on that. I don't know. All right, well, let's stay with the 200 then.
Can I see that list again, guys?
Mhm.
Thank you very much.
So this would be a C.
I think,
If the other one's an A, I think the other one would be an A.
Yeah, I'm happy to
well, we
move
might
the
come,
200 to A
move it to A for now. And see
and then
where
throw
we
this
come
in
out.
B.
Cause I think Mary, what you're saying too is that he's inherited a lack of any kind of funding for maintenance, really.
In
on
the
the sewer
sewer
side.
budget, yeah, absolutely.
And
Sewer
so
budget
this,
is
this does allow him some catch up, some. Under limited means.
correct.
C,
St. George Street improvements.
See,
See,
be nice, but not necessary. Pickup truck,
Pickup trucks.
C,
Disagree with C.
73, yeah.
anyone want to put it in B or what's the?
Well, we're sort of moving all the vehicles into C for. I'm not sure what the logic is there. I think I would go with the vehicles as they recommended them in priorities.
the idea to replace any vehicles that can still pass inspection.
Did St. George Street get funded to?
No, nope, they rejected it.
Well, I put the pickup truck as B and the director's car as a C. That's sort of silly. There's no real good logic
Well,
for either of
their
those.
priority two is pretty low.
Yeah, the priority is pretty low. It's a 6-year-old truck and it was good enough. They were gonna think about handing it down to the cemetery.
That's right. If they've got replaced, right?
Correct.
So I put them Cs. St. George Street sewer feasibility, this was a sort of a wish
Yeah.
from the group.
Unfortunately, that has to go to a C.
Library upgrade. Lighting,
So that can come off.
Yeah, that came, that became our.
It was, actually, it was not ARPA, it was net metering,
That's-
but you can put it in the ARPA column, that's fine. And that project should be almost done, if not already.
Nice.
Oh, we have lots of money.
Oh, so much money. All right, town hall repairs and maintenance.
B for now.
Sure. Well, you're on the wrong, so it's two things there, town hall, HVAC.
B,
I don't know why all the HVAC stuff isn't in one bucket. I don't know why we parse it out this way.
oh, that's true, because wasn't there a townwide
Mhm.
HVAC?
Mhm. Feel more strongly about the van if it's gonna fall apart than the actual other stuff.
What was the story on that one?
Don't recall personally.
I
Look at
I don't remember the van.
So the van has been on here for a couple of years. There were some problems with the van, but my recent conversations with Katie, I thought we had indicated, actually, I should have this down, that we had the mechanics address a number of those issues and that it was okay for now.
Wasn't
What
there
is-
two vans and we ended up bypassing one last year and funding one? Like a new one?
For facilities, I don't remember you funding a van for facilities.
I thought that was,
No.
a mechanics van.
Yeah,
So they
we
could
bought
go
a new
do-
mechanics truck.
Yeah, that we bought,
Right.
yeah.
What's an HVAC van?
So we have, on staff, we have an HVAC technician, who,
Also, it's the HVAC technician's van.
correct.
Thank you. What's good? We got a portable HVAC unit in the van?
No, it's for the staff member who
Okay.
goes from building to building with parts and equipment.
So is that a B or a C?
Happy with Bs.
Yeah.
The van, I might move to a C.
Pretty much all the vehicles, Bs and Cs, and B is good because at the end of it, we can then prioritize amongst the equipment as to which needs to move, could be moved up to an A, if any.
I'd put the van in C and the HVAC at a B.
Anyone objections?
No. I remember actually on this. Are we at Percy Walker isolation valves right now?
Yeah, that's,
That was, oh, it's on Opera?
Yeah, all right.
Oh,
next to-
great.
All right. Barn roof leaks.
What is the
I
Delano
haven't heard
barn?
of that
Sorry.
one.
so the town owns the Delano farm and somebody is. There's some property owners that are running an agricultural business at that farm. Is that the right one that I'm thinking of?
Yeah, but there's.
So,
there's
So they
also-
they fix the barn?
Well, there's also I thought they had a request to build a new barn.
Is this at
Uh,
Camp Wing?
Delano, I don't, so I
No,
thought Delano was
no.
the one on 53.
I have no idea.
Or is that Di Lorenzo? I'm thinking Di.
Oh,
And there's no community preservation, like it doesn't fall into historic, right?
I'm confusing the two.
I wasn't
because-
here, because I have no idea what this is.
I don't even, it's like I'm on Katie's presentation and I don't even remember.
Anything I can think of Delano is the old school in Powder Point and the high school. That's all. that rings
Katie,
a bell.
Katie never, and when we had our talk, we never even went over a barn. Let me see, let me go back to my notes and just take a look.
Yeah, I'm thinking Di Lorenzo farm, sorry. Delano farm,
I think Delano's just further down 53. closer to High Street.
And so we own it and it's leased out to a private party that uses it for,
You know, O'Neill's down.
Okay,
High Street.
that's on Winter, yeah.
What do they use it for?
that I don't know. But if it's a town-owned barn and it falls under historic, could we use CPC funds? I don't know if we can. Can we on repairs?
And it's not supposed to be, no.
Yeah,
Well, unless it's historic you can.
that's what I'm wondering. One, if it's historic, and then two, is it a revenue generating
No.
entity?
I can tell you no. None of these historic properties or conservation properties are revenue generating by any stretch.
So
let's put it-
does anyone know who utilizes the Delano barn?
I don't think any of us know even where it is.
Yeah,
Once part of the historic Delano family farm, these 20 acres were purchased by the town in 2002 and include forest and 8 acres of open field. So it's categorized as open space under the open conservation booklet. It doesn't say where it is.
So should the barn just be demoed because it's not
Let's just put it in C.
town
Yeah.
function?
Yeah.
Let's just put it in C.
I'd
Put it in C for now.
Sure.
Were these facilities items in any kind of order? Alex, when you put them in like this?
So, I couldn't, these ones, like, I couldn't reconcile them to Kate's presentation.
Okay.
Yeah, her presentation ended up with just one item at the end.
I wasn't here for
And
it.
on my meeting with her in my notes, I don't have some of these. So,
Then they were not higher priorities then.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm thinking.
Let's not kill time over this.
So,
Fire department, staff car.
I'm
It
just
was
gonna,
not in her presentation at the end. She only had 5 things in the end. Let me show her.
I'm just gonna resort this real quick, cause I wanna sort of, now that we're out of anything that had a department ranking. What I'm gonna do is just sort by department and then take out. Anything that has a priority, because we've already gone through it, so I'm gonna put the blanks in here, so we can look at it. I think this way might be a little easier now, department by department. Oh, no.
It's
Sorry.
okay, we'll just go through info system. I think we got,
Give me 1 sec, I just. Alright, give me 1 sec.
Oh, you just sorted that without your,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
can you just do undo?
Yep, I just,
did.
Yep.
All right, we almost spent half our money in A.
Oh, you haven't even gotten through police, fire and any of the other.
Take that. So this is by department now. You'll need to deal with that first one. Letting them create this. Green. Yeah. Alright. Alright, so we are on Percy Walker Pool. Isolation valves.
Yeah. Further down. Those are great.
sorry, those are funded, fire.
Yeah, fire command vehicle.
So over 100,000 miles is a 2018. Their intent is to hand it down, which is a red flag that they don't need to replace it now.
So I'm just gonna interject for a second. So we've had conversations recently with our department heads about trade-ins versus hand-me-down vehicles, and there had been a couple of years where some of the departments had pursued trade-in in order to offset the cost, the capital outlay. We've asked them to not do that anymore, because we have such a need for hand-me-down vehicles that we've got folks who are using vehicles that are past their useful life, and we want to make sure that we continue to do that. So just because it's got a note that says it can be handed down, it's for departments that don't utilize it to the extent that police and fire would use those vehicles. So I'm sharing that with you just so you understand sort of our new process. The beach comes to mind all the time because there's those vehicles take, a lot of abuse. And we need to recognize that we can't have people riding around in vehicles that have a stop sign for a floorboard. It's just not safe. So I can't speak to this particular vehicle.
I had a stop sign as a floorboard in my first car I ever owned.
That may be the case, but I'm not gonna
I
encourage workers'
understand, I
comp claim
understand.
because of that.
I don't recommend it.
I do not recommend it. So given that I can't speak to the condition of this vehicle specifically, but I just want you guys to be aware of it, because I know you do have lots of conversations about cars. We want to make sure that we are going to get every ounce of life out of every vehicle and not trade it in for $1,500.
Good. B,
2018.
I think it has to be a B.
For now, yeah.
Alright.
EKG, is that funded?
Good funded,
Opioid.
Excellent.
the safe vote.
On the safe boat, a question for you. Jake had indicated to me the other day that he was able to get a lower price.
Great.
And has he shared that with you? Cause I don't have the exact dollar value, but he did go out and get an update. Let me text him and see if I can get that info.
And I guess my other, will this all be waterways improvement? Because typically this is.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
you
that's
can-
both
you
of
can-
those, the safe boat and the float chain and moorings, I think would be an A because it can be covered through waterways improvement.
But if you're totaling, do you wanna?
We can account for it at the end.
Okay.
If we're over,
Make it blue for water?
yeah.
Yeah, so we'll carry it at the 93 for right now.
Sure.
And then, but I do expect that price is gonna come down.
Townwide computer replacement.
Stay.
Yeah, it's. they
I-
need to
I
come
would
back with a
agree.
better number.
And it really needs to be a multi-year plan.
Yeah.
yeah,
That I would not support that request as it is right now. And without a CTO, they
Yeah.
need to develop a game plan.
I think the AV at the police department is a C.
Mhm.
yeah.
Website upgrades.
That has a timeline, but I don't think we're.
We're not near it, yeah. And I guess, I don't know, Eric, you can maybe answer this or not, but like. Is there a risk of a lawsuit? Cause so. My wife works in technology, she used to do websites and stuff like that, and. One of her sort of sales things was people were getting sued because. Their websites were ADA compliant and, whether they were frivolous or not, but that was happening in the world. And is that a possibility here for us?
You know
I
what
would,
the nature of of the upgrade is? That what they're talking about?
this was accessibility,
Yeah,
ADA
it was
accessibility to,
ADA sort of,
to the short answer to your question, Alex, is anything is possible.
yeah. Okay.
Um,
I do remember though, the timeline piece was
It's
not
April 2027.
seven, yeah.
So I think let's wait till the CTO and defer to next year.
yeah, because honestly, even if you were to, you know,
You know,
approve it or endorse it, there needs to be a project manager.
yeah.
Yeah.
C-ish.
There's something for $1, let's put that in
Yeah,
A.
That would be considered a placeholder. Because that will be well in excess of any threshold, but that is not at a state where it's ready to do anything.
Yeah.
They're dollar and a C.
Good.
All right, fleet replacement.
I think you have to do that.
So, a couple of issues on this.
Yeah. Can someone, I wasn't there, so I guess, can someone just give me the cliff notes? Are these like the same cars, you know, do we know what
Two new, so a change of fleet. So what we're used to is on our regular annual replacement, we would be getting 2 or 3 new cruisers. And this is replacement with 3 SUVs. So not Yukons, what one? What was it they were getting? Was it Yukon?
Two Chevy Tahoes and one
Tahoe.
Ford Pursuit.
Yeah, so they're
But-
$9,000 a piece. Right? That was, I think, what we had. Yeah, thereabouts. And that's with the lights and the whole 9 yards. But it's, it's getting, so our fleet now is SUVs, pickup trucks, and patrol cars. And they're using these SUVs for patrol. It's very expensive. And it's kind of getting away from this maintenance program. And one of the selling points is that they were going to pass them down. So I just heard from Mary, that's kind of what we don't want to do. And the other thing on the SUVs is they're not known to be great pass me down kind of vehicles. You get a longer life with the Ford Explorers for pass down, like drive them to the ground, than you do with a Yukon. So it's a tough one because it's a tough
you-
year to be changing.
One of the things he said is that the Tahoe's a 4-wheel drive. Not everybody likes to drive the Tahoes because they're big and they're more difficult to handle apparently.
Mhm.
But the Ford Pursuits that they were getting are all, that one of the 3 vehicles this year would be a Ford Pursuit is all-wheel drive, which is fine for not for a Pursuit car apparently anymore.
Mhm.
But
And if I remember correctly, as well, part of the issue is, the lead time, the availability of the vehicles. That the Fords, so the police department was making the argument that shifting to Tahoes because they've had good success with them, for driving on back roads and beaches and et cetera. That the availability of those vehicles was, much more readily available than the Fords that had a multi-year lead time.
And then he also talked about the issue where they had gone the Ford hybrid route at one point, but they're a problem. Ford's not even making them anymore.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, hybrids either great or awful, nothing in between. Some
Well,
some
they're
of
not,
them died
they're not
forever.
even making the police version of them anymore. They stopped because of the problems with them.
So the Ford Intercept is what the normal cruiser is. And it's about, I think, memory somewhere at 10, you're saving $10,000 or something. It's
Yeah,
20,000.
83,000 per Ford and $92,000 difference.
Yeah, it's not a huge difference, but mechanically, the Ford does a couple of things. You keep your fleet all in the Ford family. There's muscle memory in terms of getting into an assigned vehicle for that shift. The deputy chief talked about that. So now we're kind of getting away from that, where it's like we have pickup trucks, we have SUVs, we have, the interceptors. And I'm not really sure, without speaking to the chief again, kind of where this is coming from to mix this up so much, other than the all-wheel drive, four-wheel drive. But again, it's from what I know from fleet management and asking the question, if you want a vehicle and you want to run it and you want to run it down, or you want to be able to pass it on, you're going to go with the Ford Interceptor. You're not going to go with the big SUV. The SUV you want to trade out, and you want to trade that out before you get into a lot of expensive mechanical problems. So I guess one of the questions I had is, who is the fleet manager for the police in terms of helping them navigate literally?
Chief,
So the chief is doing that. We don't have a mechanic or somebody
Yeah.
that's fleet manager.
Yeah, they have somebody else on staff who handles those specialties. I just don't recall off the top of my head who it
And-
is.
And though that person is a mechanic, not a police officer?
No, I would not agree that that's an accurate statement.
So I think this is just a difficult request for me. It just is, because we worked really hard with Chief Clancy to get on to this kind of cycle, and now the fleet is changing. And I don't understand the wisdom in doing all of that, and having talked to a fleet manager, he doesn't either. So it's a lot of money. $90,000 is a lot of money for a vehicle that is not used traditionally in pursuit, which is what you want a patrol car to be able to do.
because I do recall him saying that the pursuit is fallen by the wayside too.
No, I'm
Yes.
talking about in pursuit of, in your line of duty. So you need to accelerate to get to that car ahead of you. You're in pursuit of it. You're getting a top-heavy SUV that, like, for example, when you train on EVOC, or these guys train for the driving, you're never going to train on an SUV. You're going to train with a cruiser, which is the Ford Pursuit. So I don't know, other than it's big and people like it and they like the feel of it. I don't know why we're getting into replacing vehicles where we work so hard to get into a regular replacement, stay in one family, whether it was GMC or Ford, because what we're trying to do is maximize our maintenance. And we seem to be getting away from that. And the only thing I've heard is because it's what the different drivers like, and then two, four-wheel drive.
Did the conversation of maintenance come up? Are these getting maintained at the DPW, or are these?
I think it's through Colonial Ford. and
That's
they're
what I
getting
thought.
maintained.
Everything was getting maintained by the
We send
dealership.
them.
As
out.
an owner of an Explorer, I no longer have it maintained at Colonial Ford. That's been an issue too.
Yeah, it's outside maintenance. And really expensive lighting package. Just doesn't
Well-
feel like a year to be.
Karen, what would you propose in a more positive context?
Yeah, how do we get here? How do we get off this? I got the distinct impression that the chief and his deputy wanted Chevy Towers.
I'm sure they do. Most
But-
people do. They love Chevy towels.
So how do we resolve this? Put the whole item in a C? I don't think that'll
No,
work.
please don't do that.
This goes back to the work we did on fleet reviews and management, and we're dealing with not only with silos across the department, but silos within the department. Where people are saying, okay, well, this is what I'll drive, but I'm not gonna drive that thing over there.
Yeah.
Years
No,
they should be
there's
operating.
some
but
kind of
anyway.
Management supervisor kind of issue associated with this that we're not able to deal with, I don't think, by the voting here.
I agree. Your fleet manager's important for all the things that I have just kind of brought up. And you're challenging a department head on what they want. And that's never good. And they don't want that, but there's huge red flags. And we had one conversation, had time to digest what they had to say. And I think it maybe will warrant another conversation with the chief. Just to kind of ask a little bit more on their willingness to kind of stay on the plan that we have really developed since we had Chief Clancy on this replacement schedule with the same cars and the same fleet versus getting so diversified, and what's the benefit? And it's a lot of it's just a lot of money. I would have a difficult time standing up and looking at town meeting and explaining a $90,000 vehicle. It just is a lot. And of course, this is year 2 where it looks like I have a target on my back here with the police because I'm challenging them once again. First their guns and now their cars. I am really going to be in trouble. You guys are going to have to bail me out. And I don't mean to pick on them, and I don't mean to be so challenging, but it just really jumps out as odd and not customary to what we've been working so hard to develop.
Well, maybe 2 of us should go and talk with the police chief to try to get some sensitivity built into his awareness of our issues.
Yeah.
I mean, what is your fleet management plan?
Well, I have this problem in the budget anyways. I'd like every department head to include in their proposals an evaluation of their entire fleet, because if, you get blindsided on looking at the small issues when Karen's bringing up a huge issue here. What is your overall plan? Your overall strategy, and why does that work for you, do you think?
I think it becomes particularly important here because we're talking about 3 new vehicles a year. Every year.
When is our next meeting? Maybe he could call into then to discuss.
Like, yeah, it sounds,
So we don't have anything.
sounds like you need Katie on a couple of questions.
Yeah,
and
can we-
she'll cover them.
And we also, there are some fees. That we need to review.
Oh, yeah, there's a couple of departments, Harbor Master and Board of Health, and we're gonna slide, water in there as well.
So.
And maybe because I'm so vocal on it, on this, again, maybe I just ask the chief if I give a few minutes and sit and talk with him personally on all of this and figure out whether he would be, adverse and open to re-looking, taking a look at this change in fleet management. And, yeah, see what he has to say. I mean, it's his request at the end of the day.
I would support that, Karen. I think another conversation with him on a private basis would be more informative than challenging him publicly. Can we put it as a B until we have this resolved?
So I think we should put it as an A. Just as a placeholder, because we know we're gonna have to put.
Yes, I agree with that.
And
Like,
also, Alex, even if he did say he was open to changing the fleet, what did we say that would take us down to only $40,000 or something?
Yeah, one Ford's already in there, so it's $18,000 difference. So he went all Fords. Be an $18,000 difference.
But don't they normally go with 2 vehicles and not 3?
3, no, it's been 3.
It's 3?
It's been 3 for a long time.
Hey, there we go. Good, move on.
And then the property security access control, I think that could be a C for this year. Um. Especially when we start talking about First Amendment, signage keeps First Amendment auditors out of that area. And it's a nice
Yeah,
city to have,
fencing. That was fencing and gates.
yeah.
Down below to. No, maybe not.
No, that's
There it
the
is.
amount,
Oh,
132,000 was fencing and gates.
Yeah.
However, he did break that down, 57,000 for gates is his first priority, and 74,000 for the fence was the second priority. And he said, he'd be comfortable with having it phased over 2 years.
So you could do 57 under A to give them the,
57, and gives them the gates, which is the most important part that keeps everybody from just driving into the area they're not supposed to be in.
right,
Is this the expanded parking lot?
No.
No, this is the main parking lot where all the police stuff is located.
it's in the back. It's where the Sally put is.
Right now, anybody can drive in there. You're not supposed to, there's signage, but people just drive in.
I like Vinny's idea, 57,000 in A and
Yeah,
whatever it was.
74, is the second priority for the fence part, that encloses the whole property area there.
would that be a B or C? And we'll do that next year.
I put the 74 in C.
Yeah.
Good.
Cause it's next year.
Tasers.
I think that's an A.
What does that warranty expire? Is that fiscal year 2026 or calendar year 2026? The warranty expires on,
Probably July of 2026, if that's when they were able to purchase them. Probably in their fiscal year, is my guess.
probably is right.
Man vehicle,
What do we do with
You
the
know-
fire chief? We put him in B.
Yeah, I have this over cloud over my head that's saying, we're not gonna have enough money to do what we want, and then when that happens in my family, I don't buy a new car.
Yeah.
But if your job is in a vehicle and you.
Yeah.
But
I don't even remember them talking about it when they came in. I only had notes on, I didn't even take notes about that.
I wasn't here.
They didn't,
I only
B or
take
C.
the,
the,
Um. So I updated this one, this was originally like 50,000 or something like that, but we had asked Steve to go back
Oh, right.
about what would it cost to do a full renovation similar to what we did at the steel building, and it was a lot. The back of the envelope was $200,000. He was pleasantly surprised that it was 106.
Oh, that.
Twice of what he recommended, but half of what we thought it was gonna be.
Yeah,
And so this would be. Upgrade both tennis courts at Wadsworth, and, hopefully wouldn't have to do anything for 20 years.
it does make sense to do the full replacement, but is CPC, can they cover this?
I don't know.
I would imagine they could. I mean, it's rec.
Right.
Yeah,
Out of their trifecta of things.
not AstroTurf and it's wrecked.
Right, so I put it in for B 106, or do we? Because. I guess it's. A risk if we don't do it next year, the courts fail, but
Yeah, and I think he was basically saying if we don't do something this year, those courts are gonna be pretty much unplayed.
what does it look like? We're gonna upgrade a tennis court, but not buy a police car. Shut down the tennis court. Because you're gonna do the full replacement anyways, right? So. I guess it would be great to get CPC funds for that, though. Do they ask for that, or How does that get done?
We have to
They
ask.
Yeah, they would have to, but I just don't know if that period's open or not still. I just don't know if there's like an application timing component.
So B or C,
B or C, you know. You pick, Alex.
B,
Yeah.
So the rest of this school. I had them as on hold. For, or they sort of pushed out the priorities for this, because they outlined their top 8 things for
Yeah.
1.4 million, and everything else in the schools was. They were sort of kicking the can.
right, I think all of these were lower. Furniture replacement, I was,
The steel turf fencing, there's a fence around the whole turf field now.
there is, but it's, I don't know exact height, but it's
Well-
like 3 foot high and people jump over it, it's not. So people get in for free, it's definitely not an urgent issue.
Are adults jumping over it? Because if it's kids, they're gonna climb over everything unless you put barbed wire on it, and you're not gonna do that.
Well, that's
So,
what we're proposing
kids
to do,
do.
security fencing that
You
is.
can make it 8 foot high and kids are gonna jump over it. That's so I'm saying, is this an adult problem that they're evading fears, and how many adults are doing it?
And
I
what's
don't
the
know.
cost?
Yeah, so how
100,000.
So
many
it's
people,
are we losing $100,000 in revenue?
No, you're
so-
probably losing somebody going to, what charges, just the football games? $5?
Is that really what the intent is for? Okay, if we're not losing $100,000 worth of revenue, then I would not.
Does anyone
Be considered-
object to me putting all of the rest of the schools into C?
No, that's good,
all in favor, aye.
but the steel turf fencing is
The only
the,
the furniture repair,
It makes me nervous.
Except for the green one, Alex, because that one's being
Yeah.
pursued.
Yeah.
Okay.
you can delete it later.
Yeah, and some of those don't have amounts.
I think those were in ClearGov, but I didn't pull them out.
Okay.
So Alex, like the district projector refresh was in that 300,000 that they requested. So some of them without an amount are not,
Probably got lumped.
yeah,
So, but you gotta include the, don't look under A.
Yeah.
So now this looks like a duplicate at 75.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I'm wondering
Yeah, row
if,
75.
I wonder if this went up to 200.
And that didn't, yeah, and it didn't get deleted, because you have another line in
Yeah.
there for that, so I would remove that one.
that was the original amount, the 125.
Okay,
something
I would
tells
just
me we
delete the
can't
whole
do
line.
PFAS.
You have a row
priority
that's
mitigation.
being, oh, because you're filtering, I'm sorry.
yeah, I just got anything with.
I'm sorry, would you say something tells you what?
That we don't have 38 million to spend.
Alright,
No, I mean, look at the total cost of that capital program of 83 million. Is just shy of our entire annual operating budget.
Yep.
So if you wanted to pursue that, you could essentially double everybody's taxes for the year.
I just heard that I don't pay enough attention to our tax bill, but my son-in-law just told me his just went up $6,000.
Here in town.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that, because his went up, means someone sold on a street and they,
Comparable sales.
right, but that doesn't mean that everyone's went up, it means some people's went down to
Mhm.
compensate the overall cap of 2.5%.
That is correct.
Oh, yeah. it's true.
So benefits.
Yeah.
There are
So-
some.
Sorry,
you
Clayton,
know,
sorry,
if
Clayton, you
someone
get
to
screwed.
Sell on your street.
Blame your neighbor, he
Which
sold his
doesn't
house
make
last year.
sense. It should be an overall
Mary, what is the best way to handle these?
And overall
70
what?
assessed value based on,
So everybody on that street gets readjusted, because, so that
no,
the,
it shouldn't be just that street, like townwide to do.
Not necessarily, because every neighborhood stands, on its own. And it's based on the desirability of that property in that area, right? Because every home, we have a legal obligation to value every home at its full and fair cash value. Every year. So that's why that happens, yeah. I'm
All
sorry,
right,
back
back
to
to
what
this.
your question was.
Water.
So water retained earnings, I'm gonna remind you all. That last year, the water retained earnings was about 4.5 million, and we spent half of that. On capital projects. One large ticket item was $700,000 for PFAS. And then there was system rehabilitation and various trucks. We spent over 50% of the water department's retained earnings in order to catch up and address issues. Right now, their retained earnings, which is not certified, I anticipate will be certified around $2 million.
Hmm.
And I am not recommending that we draw that down.
Another half?
I,
You're saying you're not recommending doing another half? Another $1 million in that?
so here's the issue. We are currently under, in the process of doing a water sewer rate study, which we anticipate will be completed and within probably the next 30 days. Then those rates have to come before you guys, as well for a
We do that?
rate review.
Oh, I thought that was select board.
And then it has to go to the
Uh-huh.
select board for adoption. Until we start to generate additional revenues and be able to build up additional retained earnings, I am very concerned about us drawing that down too far. I would not go beyond $1 million in its entirety, and even that gives me pause for concern.
So with that. The water,
Water's top priority is the water main replacement. Yeah. $2 million.
for 2 million.
And I will tell you that right now, so that would be something that would be bondable, right? And we could issue debt for the water department. The problem is that they are currently not generating enough revenue to increase their ability to pay back debt right now. Without rate increases.
Without the change rate, so we really could have tabled the whole water department for now.
I don't know that you have to table the whole thing, because there are some other items for
Small
consideration.
ones.
And I think we should talk about the priorities that Mark has listed there. There's an opportunity to potentially do something for water main replacements, whether it's not gonna be the full $2 million. But if it's $500,000 to give him something to work with.
What did we appropriate last year, and has that all been spent?
It was, let me pull that up.
You just sent it to us.
So what we did is twofold, yeah, let me. Where is it?
What do the yellow ones mean?
It's like missing.
They weren't declared out.
Oh, but they were on the spreadsheet when he came and talked to us, okay?
So we did 750,000 at the last town meeting. So he has 700, and right now what remains in that line item as of today is 580,000.
All right, so
So
I know
some
we
water
went up
main
to
replacement is going to
750.
take place.
Yep.
His
Is
number
that-
2 priority was the GIS water mapping.
Yeah.
And that was consolidate existing maps to 1 from 3.
yeah. Does sound like a good efficiency improvement.
And it's 50,000. His third priority was the truck 6 replacement.
Well, then the lead services was sort of a compliance issue.
And that was a 4th. It is
Right,
compliance
you
for
have-
Mass DEP. It's only a study. At this point,
What's his study?
the lead service line inventory is, they need to do a study of it to get into compliance for the Mass DEP.
Oh, I thought
So
that, I thought he already did, I thought they had like someone who worked there.
So
Already done.
the 30,000 is
My
the
notes aren't
lead
clear.
service, but does not include the gooseneck connections, which there's 1,500 of them newly identified. But he has 5 years to do that and would do it under the water main replacement. So as they go through.
So if that were the case, I would call, instead of water main replacements, I would call that, system improvements, so that it encompasses goosenecks and other things as well.
Yeah, but the goosenecks tie into that main, so they have to. We can remove them and, okay, yeah, I get it. So. Water system replacement, water main, water,
I would say system improvements.
and instead of 2 million. Should we go back to the 750 again? I know that's not.
It depends on whether you prioritize these other items.
Yeah, but the water enterprise is a separate.
Yeah, but he's got like 8 items this.
Got it.
So was there conversation about putting the GIS water mapping as a definite in A? And
Yes.
the lead service line inventory 30 in A also?
I think so.
At least get those two moved over. That seemed like, from what you're saying, big priorities. I'm not sure about the vehicle 6 at 100,000, but what you're saying is that was a big priority for him. So do we move that over because of what he's requesting?
So the.
Truck 6 is a 217 Chevy Silverado 2500. It's it does plowing and it's got 160,000 miles on it.
Ooh,
Yeah. Yeah.
nice.
Worth out of that.
Yeah. Time to
Excellent.
replace it, I think.
That's vehicle number 6, right? Yep.
Yeah,
100,343.
it says number 3 replacement. The
So
one,
we need
What do
enough,
we want to keep this number at? How much, Mary, were you comfortable with for water that we could use?
750,000 as the starting point, not to exceed 1 million. If I understood you.
I would be much more comfortable at staying at 750.
Okay, let's do 750 and see what happens, but so that's 500.
How, are we still on the mitigation for the PFAS at the top there for the 38?
$600,000 in, put 600,000 in the water for the.
Water
2 million.
system improvements, water main.
What was his priority on the generators?
the generators, he added this as 6 out of 8.
Okay.
But he has 103,000 sitting there from FY 2020 article.
Mm.
So
So,
he's asked for another 200. Apparently that would take care of Mayflower and Tremont
So,
wells.
but so Tremont's offline, right?
no,
Depot and Tremont?
Depot and Partridge, but
Depot and
Tremont,
Partridge.
so that would be part of the PFAS improvement. Includes Tremont. Mayflower, maybe Mayflower generator can be covered by the 103.
So Candace, what you're saying is the 200,000 is what we
Oh,
would
I-
approve now?
Here's my other note, so. Water had this as their 6th priority, but Sheila has it as her number 2 priority.
For the generators?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
that's fine.
don't have any further notes on why, I just made a note that Sheila says she'd bump it to 2. Well, that's the
Like
boss.
200 there and 400 for the
So is-
water main replacement.
Is the total
Jeez.
200 or is
I
that
would-
in addition to the?
I think it's in addition to the 103, they're asking for 200, they're saying they already have 103 in there.
Yeah. So next Monday, we present to the select board on the PFAS and the recommendation to meet, so Depot being out of service right now doesn't have the capacity to add a building to house the filtration, so they're recommending a combined treatment for both Tremont and Depot. And that 38 million that's noted there includes, more than half of that is required system improvements to the wells under the water master plan. And in that, it includes the generators, so we do one or the other, but if that doesn't get approved, we'd want the generators.
So you're saying if the $38 million does not get approved?
Right. And that means that
Is that a
we
separate
are
article?
out
on
of
that?
compliance and either
Are
we,
both of them individual articles?
For the PFAS, for.
that,
the PFAS
there's only
request, you are.
one of
Yes.
those, so it should be, that is a duplicate line.
Yeah,
So the generators are pretty critical, like. I mean, that seems like something we should be moving over, right?
that's why Sheila bumped it up to a number 2
You
priority.
just have to
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. So my question, I mean, you guys have operated for how long?
Right, so probably 6 years ago, there was an urgent request to spend $1 million on generators.
Okay.
And we went through and said, when you're running, especially say winter time, how many wells are running?
Mhm.
4. And all those 4, the priority, like Evergreen has already emergency generators
Okay.
that automatically transfer over. I forget the other 2. And so the priority wells that are the biggest producers have emergency generators. There's other ones that have a portable generator that they have to physically get to the well and connect up and transfer. There's others that have lower produce, like Partridge doesn't have an emergency generator, but it's shut down. So why would we do that?
Right.
So I think Mark's assessment is probably more in line with the urgency. And the whole PFAS, there's 20 million that's needed to maintain those wells. That hasn't been done in the last, so that's. But. So,
So are you kind of getting that in the PFAS mitigation effort, it's gonna include the generators too?
yes, the
Rehabbing
estimate
wells,
does
yeah.
include
That
generators,
kind of makes sense.
right? So,
So
So
Excuse me.
there's one request for the PFAS priority, not the 2, the 35 million would be included now if needed. And then the Tea Kettle Lane. We were hoping that as a bigger producer of a well could replace some of the smaller wells, and initial investigation showed that still would need some iron and PFAS treatment. But it's 5 years to permit, so it doesn't help us, so we're recommending to put that on hold now. But there would be a new request for so the next priority wells to do a pilot study, so it's part of the permitting assessment and what filtration equipment would be needed. And that's for 400,000. But these would be warrant articles that we would present.
So we're
And
at
are you expecting that the water enterprise is gonna fund all of these?
it can't.
So you're expecting that this would be a general fund debt exclusion?
I don't know. I just, I don't know the funding source. But you need to do the improvements or you're limiting water supply. You can tell everyone to use less water, which is part of the plan, but
Alright, where are we right now?
I don't
What are
know.
we trying, we should be,
So I think, so we have 180 in water now. And do we just put the balance of 750 into
Yep.
water main replacement? Or we'll change the name of it, so it's water improvements.
600,000.
Water main system improvements,
I would just call it water system improvements,
water system.
please.
yeah. Yep. And everything else, what does the sea? Well, except for the two that the voters will decide. The one, I should say. Ugh. So,
So. And I'm not even gonna put these big numbers in there,
yeah, don't bother.
Right,
so. all right.
well, one line is duplicate, so you can delete one.
Delete the 35.
So the 750 that hasn't been spent, that's part of the half that was spent out of the enterprise fund?
Part of the half, what do you mean? part
You
of
said
the half?
the water retained earnings was 4.5 million and we've drawn that down by half.
Yep.
That includes last year's appropriation for the,
Yeah, so we took the money out of retained earnings and put it into articles, yeah, so of the 2.5 million we used, we divvied it up into articles.
got it,
One of those articles was the 750,000.
okay, got it, wanna make sure.
So now
Sweet.
with your balance, we could actually under A, we could actually consider the Powder Point Bridge. Right? Because we didn't put that in an A.
Which would be just about exactly the fifth.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Well, we have a little bit more because of these two are getting funded by waterways,
Yep.
150,000.
so.
You wanna just put them underwater?
I
It's
just
not
took them out to
moderate.
another column,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. I'd scooch them over to.
Mary, your town's all over the place. Getting their sailings on 2.5 right now.
All I heard was a crash.
Alex, we don't have money to replace that, so don't blink. Yeah, boy,
So.
read a fascinating article in the town of Lexington and they're how they are like fully grasping the
MBTA.
MBTA Act. Putting 1,000 new units in town are already on the planning stage, already, some of it are already built,
Mhm.
1,000.
Yeah.
1,000. Which is, what will be 900, is the plan? Potential with 900 on the one that we have,
750 is what I remember.
okay,
Was that in
Well,
addition to-
So we'll move over the Powder Point Bridge to A, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so, all right.
and we get like 150,000 more. Roughly.
So we're 110,
Yeah,
100,000 you can add, that's it.
That's it.
How about one of those expensive vehicles?
no, we have, but.
Oh,
250.
200, right,
oh,
250, right.
Oh, what's the 139, the two that go in the water?
Yeah,
Okay.
so is
Alright.
250 for the school curriculum?
There was some Bs we definitely moved that we wanted to see done.
Should we go through and highlight some that are really strong Bs?
um. Yeah, I guess what would be.
It's tough with all the vehicles we definitely threw in a lower priority.
I think,
So the HVAC upgrades to do HVAC and roof, townwide HVAC and roof school. You know what I mean, like we changed,
Those got moved to Bs, right?
right, but I'm saying move some of that to A and change the name so it's for either.
Just HVAC repairs for facilities. So we're talking about,
Facilities had roof and HVAC,
I'm
For
sorry,
both.
then I missed what you said.
so
Candace, I apologize.
townwide. HVAC and roof repairs and school HVAC and roof repairs. We have 4 items now
Mhm,
and give them one allowance for town and one for schools.
I see.
Is it all or nothing on the fuel depot at 550?
Probably.
That's where I was trying to get at, if they had a quote for 392 or something like that, and then we could avoid the engineering. But that's a small amount.
Which needs to have done ahead of the project anyway.
Yeah, you don't. So we have 70,000 already, and we're thinking they need more for the engineering.
So
So
I
we
don't know how much more.
but we could put in, well, we could put in 100. But it would have to be used only for engineering, right?
Not if you called it roof canopy, and the expectation was that it could be used for anything needed for that project.
Right, but then. That's appropriating 200,000 for something that costs 550. Plus 70. So the total is 550 less 70.
are you gonna?
Correct. The 70 is an existing article that was previously allocated a couple
Yeah.
of years ago.
So I thought 550 was the
Included.
total project.
Correct,
And-
that was the question,
Okay.
so Candace
Got
it's 550 less the 70.
Yeah.
So it's 480.
Well, additional funds needed.
Yeah,
Correct.
um.
And it's not just canopy, I think that was our issue too, is it's also the fueling dispensers and the pad and everything, it's not.
Spill protection, fire suppression.
Right, and so because the other article had just said roof canopy, they couldn't pursue design and engineering for everything else related to it. But we can do that for a town meeting vote by reappropriating that article for a different purpose.
Yeah.
So is it
Uh,
worth allocating money for the engineering? Or is it a project that you really want to complete in its whole entirety in the same year?
Well, the risk is if we, say if we fund 200,000 and more, and we need really 480.
I
And it
think
might
that-
not be money next year.
Yeah,
There may not, and I think the issue is that the design and engineering needs to get done, but we don't know what that cost is.
Yeah.
We need to know what that cost is.
mhm.
And if that cost to do the design and engineering. Before we appropriate any additional construction funding, because we don't know if, what. Of that budget, what the breakdown is.
Well,
Could you put
So
a
if-
placeholder in there for that, just,
so if we put in
Ballpark.
50,000 for additional engineering,
I don't know if
and will
that,
we confirm, we have to follow up.
you could, yeah. We have to, that would require confirmation.
So the way you're thinking, Candace, it would be reallocate the 70 plus 50, we'll get you 130.
So we have to reallocate it because it's already there for the canopy.
It's just the canopy, it's the name, and because I wasn't at town meeting and I didn't hear the discussion. I don't know whether the discussion was broad enough to include the dispensers and everything else, the fire suppression system. So I can't in good conscience allow that.
Alex, what were the notes you made on the HVAC? If we did the three HVACs that it was just shown on this page. The
That's
line
nice.
23, 18, and 19, that's 135,000.
Alex, can you scroll down on this a little bit? Just so we can see what else in B?
Don't filter out, just be.
Yeah, it's a lot on the HVAC. It could be bundled.
Where are you? Are you going through the Bs right now?
Mhm.
Okay, I see, I'm sorry.
Yeah, if we did all the HVACs, that's 75 and 60. 135.
So we don't want to address any of the schools, one or two.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, the number of schools, number 1 and 2 are hanging out there.
Hmm.
I don't even know how we even talk about touching one.
Given our limited financial constraints, you'd be looking at breaking that into 2 separate projects, right?
Yeah, we don't know what that breakdown is.
I think it's 3 and 350.
300 and 350.
For the more,
We did just one of them, we go over our budget.
2, 1 were,
I
the first one were over $100,000.
just, for the reasons I already iterated, I would avoid the curriculum changes.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
For the issues that I already talked about earlier, I would not touch the curriculum personally, I'm just. That anybody who designed the curriculum needs before the MCAS was eliminated as graduation requirement should be reevaluating their curriculum needs. And they post. MCAS environment.
I believe that the assistant superintendent addressed that when they were here. I just don't recall the exact conversation. And given that that's their number 1 priority, I think there's, some gravity to how they ranked these things,
Well,
but.
if you,
I hear
if you
ya.
gave the schools 200,000, I guess I don't know anything they want, right?
In the operating budget, not in capital.
Not in the
Capital.
Not
They have to
capital, it's
spend.
it's for a
That has to-
dedicated purpose, yeah.
So does how much does 350,000 exceed our budget?
About $100,000.
Well, they can have the first year.
Oh gosh. Okay. School budgets.
Is that meeting still going?
Yeah. In any.
So
if
aren't you
it's-
glad to be here with us?
Lots of work to do leading up to this. So Alex, what's your final number if you add the 350 in there? Can I just see it?
Yeah. We're at 2.1.
Wouldn't
2.1, okay.
Close.
wouldn't it be the 300?
And we can. Ideally.
So 350 is for the elementary
That's the
literacy.
I had the math was 350.
Oh,
Let me just check. I know that.
It's accessible.
So math, on their presentation, I have math is 300 and elementary literacy is 350.
And they chose elementary literacy as the higher priority. Okay. Assuming that things go according to my calculation, we would be able to support column A.
We still have some issues of talking with people. We can add that to the list of things and we can resolve this. Are you comfortable with this presentation to the select board on Monday
Yes,
with some possible changes in?
yes, I mean, this is a plan. And, you know, we start with a plan. And if we have to refine it, we refine it.
And our B column would be an override addition possible?
Mhm.
I don't understand override, just that. How do we come up with another
I have that.
$3 million as an override?
Oh, you're not.
Okay.
You're absolutely not getting that. And no, you're not funding column B.
So how do you structure
This is
the
what she
override
gave
in
us.
terms
Oh,
of
that's
the
weird.
amount of money you're looking for or?
So the override is for operating
Okay.
expenses. These are not
Not
operating.
for operating. You cannot do an override for operating, for capital.
You
You
can,
can.
you can.
Yeah.
You can do debt exclusions and you can do
Right.
capital exclusions,
Okay.
absolutely. But the override is for the operating budget.
Okay,
What's a capital exclusion versus a debt?
So a capital exclusion is a 1-year payback. So if the town needed to purchase a $2 million fire engine. And we wanted to add it onto the tax bill for next year for and pay it off in one fell swoop. That's a capital exclusion. But that also requires the same as a debt exclusion, which would be a ballot
Yeah.
vote. Yep.
You good?
adjourned? Maybe.
Don't we have a fee thing? You
Fee
said,
thing.
So we need to figure out, I guess two things. So one. We never took a formal vote on this final listing, so we need to take.
I move that we accept the plan A.
call the plan to
The plan
approve
has-
the capital items
Double A.
listed in column A of Alex's spreadsheet.
Yeah.
You move that, I'll second it.
I'll move that.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Karen, Ling,
I,
okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 600. All right, so that formalizes that. We need,
What you gotta do, I only heard column A. I need you to do AA, which is water.
oh yeah, we need to do water, sorry. Can I get a motion for water? Let me just show that.
I move that we approve the plan for water budget
Capital
in the
items.
amount of $750,343.
Second.
All those in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
I,
Motion carries 600.
So. So we didn't put money in for the engineering for the,
Fuel depot.
yeah,
Fuel depot is very expensive, and I don't know how we split it up at this point.
And, you know, and I think. To Mary's point, this is our plan, we have certainly gone. The morning of town meeting and looked at some things. Okay, so.
I think if I remember right, last year we had a rating attended meeting
Cause he wanted
go-
something specific
to
from
point out that there were certain items that
guns.
people had got back to him and said, we really have to do this one.
Yes, yeah,
But if that happens again, fine, let me
Yeah.
deal with it.
Yeah.
So can you send me your
Yes.
final version, please? Thank you, appreciate it.
we do need to, look at, calendars for next week. To have, to go over fees. And it probably makes sense after the select board meeting on Monday to see what shakes and.
I've cleared my Wednesdays up to, but not including Christmas Day.
Okay. Does next Wednesday work for people, the 11th?
Yes,
You don't need me to.
I don't think so.
I don't take offense to that, but I have a
Well, I
4:30
mean,
appointment.
we're gonna be doing fees. I mean, is there anything?
No, the department, so you have, I believe it's the harbor master and Board of Health, they are, absolutely straight, they will be, yeah, they will be able to answer any of your questions.
Okay,
The water department, an issue came up today, and we'd like to move it forward, it's pretty simple.
okay,
And I will ask, Corey to present it, our treasurer collector, because it's really about, adding a late fee. For people who are delinquent in paying on time.
Okay.
And it's just a late fee and a demand fee.
okay. Don't we already have that?
So we do not have a late fee,
Oh, we don't have a demand fee.
but we do have a demand fee. But the way that the demand fee is written on the water rate schedule is problematic for us, and so we want to change the structure of how it happens. And so it's to clean it up is really the issue. We went to go implement it and we realized this is not going to work for us. And so it's two very simple things that Corey can present to you.
Is demand, we're gonna shut your water off? Okay.
No,
Exactly.
so,
Demand you pay.
yeah,
Yeah, but
So
what's the difference?
what do you mean? So a demand is just a notice. It's like getting the
Oh,
pink,
okay.
it's like getting a pink note in the mail that
Okay.
says,
Okay.
we've got a problem here. And if a
They've got
ratepayer,
one of those.
I was gonna say, I've definitely got whacked with the 10 to go there on the water.
I think I went down.
and that used to be $10, it's now $25. So because we have to process those and issue those and mail those out and then
Mhm.
another round of payments. But then what happens is if somebody is still, has unpaid water charges, they then get moved over to the real estate bill, and become a lien on the real estate parcel at the end of the year. Which is what we just did today.
All right, so everyone, same bat time, same bat channel, 6 o'clock next Wednesday. We'll talk fees.
Should be a little quicker than 3 hours.
Yes,
I-
for sure.
Alex,
Are you-
I don't know that I'll be able to join you. If I do, it'll be late.
Okay,
And you're also gonna, contact the other departments with remaining questions for next week, or
Yes.
just the fees for this?
yeah, I think we'll,
Wrap up any questions?
yeah, I mean, I'll put Article 6 follow-up on the agendas, all the agendas going forward.
Which is good. Rainey and I will cover this,
Yeah.
between tomorrow and Friday, and we'll give you some feedback.
Perfect.
Okay.
All right, so,
yeah, so. Communication of this spreadsheet to the departments, is that? Are we?
I'm happy to do it, but I think you've done it in the past. It makes no difference to me.
I usually just have sent it to you and Rainey, and you guys have,
Okay,
Yeah.
I will be happy to distribute it out, review it.
and. I think there's definitely one set of minutes that I know about there from our meeting with the schools on this. On the 13th. I know those minutes are out there, but I don't know if. Last meeting's minutes with the public safety have been drafted yet.
I wasn't at either
Yeah,
of those meetings.
Do we wanna? Are we comfortable with the school ones?
I think we-
13?
I think we passed those on.
Oh, you did on at the last meeting?
I think so, yeah, when we
Perfect.
were at the police and fire.
Okay. All right, motion to adjourn,
So moved.
second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.